And when it comes to supply chain, you can't hire out of university people who are supply chain experts. You no longer get people who are 20, 30 years in the same business, building that knowledge up, building those relationships with suppliers. You need systems to be able to actually work. And any scalable and sustainable business needs a robust system.
Welcome to Made to Grow, the podcast for SME manufacturers brought to you by FlowLens. I'm Rich Steele, and today I'm joined by Nishant Raj, founder of Value Chain, to dig into agentic AI and what it really means for manufacturing supply chains. If you're a manufacturer wondering whether AI is just hype or something you need to act on right now, this is worth a listen. Nishant is already deploying AI agents that solve time-consuming real problems like supplier onboarding, and he's got a clear view on why the next 3 to 5 years will separate the leaders from the laggards. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the Made to Grow podcast, and I'm delighted to welcome back Nishant Raj from Value Chain. Welcome, Nishant.
Hi, Rich. Thanks for having me back on the podcast. It's always great to see the different discussions you're having, and this time contribute a bit more from the stuff that I'm engaged in and what I'm seeing in the industry.
You're welcome, Nishant. Yeah, I mean, we try to kind of cover a variety of different topics that um, manufacturers should be interested in or are interested in, but maybe don't always have the time to take a deeper dive into them. So it's great to be able to do that. We're going to be talking about AI and supply chain, agentic AI, and a few of these terms that are hot topics at the minute. But before we get into that, Nishant, for those who don't know you, can you just give a wee bit of background about yourself and Value Chain?
Absolutely. So I'm Nishant Raj. I'm the founder with Arden Reed Limited, which owns the brand Value Chain. Um, we so I started off with 10 years in manufacturing, driving digitization across other companies, and over the last 3 years, when I joined Value Chain, uh, which was a different domain for me in supply chain. One of the key aspects for us was how do we add value back in the supply chain? How do we identify the gaps that are impacting supply chain? And the pandemic was, a great revelation to us all in terms of the impacts on supply chains that was happening. And we as we've been growing, what Value Chain does through supply chain solution for manufacturing in aerospace and automotive. We now form a part of a new brand under Arden Reed Limited, backed by investment firm, to actually scale the vision of connecting manufacturing supply chains to make it more resilient. And the industry is changing so rapidly when it comes to software. And even though manufacturing seems to be on the back burner to a lot of people, uh, as we engage in solving supply chain problems through our solutions, we see the whole modern era of AI and agents and other elements coming into play, which we'll get more into it.
Hmm. Good stuff. Well, I mean, you touched on this, but supply chains have gone, from kind of optimized for cost and reasonably, predictable scenarios and to surviving constant disruption. So, from your point of view, what has changed most for the manufacturers, and why does that kind of old school software stack struggle with it?
So I think there's always been a gap. I mean, firstly, the relevance in industry is changing. Like the industry in general in manufacturing, there's a heavy reliance on supply chain, right? And there's a heavy reliance on supply chain, which is also offshore. And the pandemic and other global world events, right? The different wars that are happening. If a canal is blocked, everything. And over the last 6 years, we've seen this happen way in news, at least a lot more amount of disruptions, to the point that a company like Tesla, which is so advanced, can do full self-driving, yet that they couldn't predict that they will run short on these chips, and they had to halt production for manufacturing. and these stoppages cost millions in downtime and cost to the businesses. And this is across every sector that we're seeing, that the supply chains are becoming more vulnerable. The and to make them more resilient, we need to understand the data. We need to be able to predict what will happen and be prepared for that, to make sure that we cover scenarios. But the other biggest thing, when we talk about the adoption of supply chain digitalization, is, as you and I both see, uh, manufacturing across the generations and across the different revolutions has been changing. And we're getting to a stage where skills are limited, and when it comes to supply chain, you can't hire out of university people who are supply chain experts. uh, you no longer get people who are 20, 20, 30 years in the same business, building that knowledge up, building those relationships with suppliers. You need systems to be able
Yeah.
to actually work, and any scalable and sustainable business needs a robust system. Now, with all historic software, the thing was, it was built in a way that is always hard to scale. It's hard, you have to spend a lot of time training on. With AI coming in, and and in general with modernization of software interfaces, uh, things need to be quick and simple to understand to what action needs to be driven. So we are seeing this as a massive change, that companies who understand that if they are trying to scale and sustain long term, they need to be in control of the supply chain, and they need robust systems to do that. And historically, the ERPs are absolutely great to be able to work inside the factory, and give every data and engagement in there. But when it comes to engaging the supplier which sits outside of that, we've seen that struggle again of how you adapt and communicate and share and collaborate with the supply chain matters, but how do you have a interconnected system rather than replacement systems? So how do you have complementary systems built in place so that everything feeds together and actually creates that visibility up and down the tiers in supply chain for us?
Mhm.
So we are seeing this as the major lever. So skills, the need for digitization coming through, and again, people understanding that they need to adopt to be able to create more sustainable supply chains.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to come to the point where it's basically survival of the fittest as far as this is
So
concerned,
yeah,
because like the risks and the pace at which things are happening and the pace at which customers expect a response, never mind on the supply chain side of things, is um, you just need to be able to react like that. Um, and old school systems and ways of working are not going to be fit for it. Um,
yeah.
you mentioned agentic AI a couple of times, and it's one of these things that is a wee bit misunderstood, particularly when it comes to specific areas like supply chain. So, what does it actually mean in practical terms?
So agentic AI, and what would have been expected over the last few years of, we've seen the trend in AI adoption. We've seen, you know OpenAI launched GPT-3 in 2020, which was quite popular at that point, but still with a niche audience, to then the launch of ChatGPT, the launch of so many different models with Gemini, with Claude, um, and how quickly the level has changed in terms of output, and how much reliance people are starting to build on that. So in the consumer world and in our own lives, we are using these things to a massive extent. In the world of corporate environments and businesses, there's still a lot of reluctance because of the understanding in terms of, what do we actually use it for, how can we securely use it for. So the difference between, just an AI, which was used to be models being trained and then you can do certain predictions, to agentic AI, is these are specific tasks that you giving to the agent to be able to do repeatably with unstructured data, and that is the key differentiator. Previously you could build Excel automations, you can build RPA automations, but with LLMs becoming as good as they have, agentic AI has become really powerful to be able to actually just go and do a task that you ask it, as long as you give it the right guardrails and principles and what you're asking it to do. And the way I like to describe it is it's like working with a junior person in your team. You could hire a graduate today, you could hire a junior person team, and this is exactly what you tell them: go and do this, go and check where the status
Hmm.
of the supplier is, go and see has this thing arrived or not. As long as they know how to go about it or what system they need to access to do that aspect, is where agentic AI comes into play. That you can go with as simple as a command and prompt like that, to be able to go and build out the answer and do it instantly. And uh, OpenClaw, which became massively popular and got acquired by OpenAI as well. They built an open source agent approach that you could configure and just chat with your Telegram or WhatsApp. And if you gave it access to your systems, including emails and your software, it could actually go and understand and report back to you and generate custom reports from the system as well. So agentic AI is becoming a enablement layer, which can actually drive much quicker outputs with lower friction and lower barrier for actually getting to the answer that you need quickly. And that means a huge change in what happens in the world of supply chain software for us, or in general, how people interact with stuff. Because nobody necessarily wants to sit and watch a graph and then try to figure out what is it telling you,
Hmm.
because you still need to have a lot of domain and historic knowledge to be able to do that. What the people really want to know is, okay, what action do I need to do, what is a risk element. And if I can just be nudged when something that I need to look at is presented to me in the right format, that's what will enable me to move faster and focus on the things that I need to focus on,
Yeah.
really. So agentic AI makes it possible to be able to do that today, and that will have a massive impact on how us as software solution providers, are almost re-establishing what building a software really means today.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely uh, changing our perception of what we offer and how we go about it. The Made to Grow podcast is brought to you by FlowLens, the simple, affordable MRP system specifically designed for SME device, equipment, and machinery manufacturers. Our top rated cloud based software can help you cut down on wasted materials, time, and money, and eliminate the chaos of running your manufacturing with spreadsheets and hope. Our customers have reported savings of over a day per week per person in their business by cutting out needless admin, duplication of work, and countless mistakes. Plus, lead times are shortened by up to 75%. And after hundreds of successful implementations, we've got the blueprint for manufacturing success nailed down. Head over to flowlens.com for a quick video tour of the software and to hear from more manufacturers like you who have transformed their businesses with FlowLens. Now, back to the interview. One point to pick up, manufacturers and well, every business,
Yeah.
is cybersecurity, cyber risks
Yeah.
should, if be front of mind if they aren't already, given the myriad threats and some of those supply chain disruptions that you talked about earlier were deliberate acts of espionage or
Yeah.
interference. Um, where are we crossing a line here in terms of uh, given the crown jewels, the manufacturing know-how, bills of materials, recipes, and so on, to third parties, and how do you mitigate that risk?
Yeah. I think, see, this is not a new concern. I mean, we saw that with the era of the cloud coming through, people going from in-house servers to actually hosting things on cloud. And even until 5 6 years ago, I remember having discussion with clients about, oh, we don't want to put our data in cloud. It's like, yeah, but your emails already sit in cloud, which actually have a lot more information than you imagine it is. So there is always that perception. I think we need to be always clear in terms of what data privacy are we actually talking about, and what that data really means in terms, because a lot of our know-hows are not necessarily just built on the fact that there is this data, but is actually the expertise to build and deliver on the output that the customers is looking at. Having said that, obviously data access and privacy is a key aspect to this, and this is evolving in the landscape currently, because a lot of customers, to be fair, are now, and in manufacturing, they themselves asking us, okay, what is your AI strategy, what are you doing? This is and some of them, due to Microsoft's massive reach, the first interface that they are able to access is Copilot. Uh,
Hmm.
and it may not be the best models out there, even though they have access to OpenAI early on. They consider it to be secure enough to do what they need to do, because it's in their Microsoft contract as such. So there's elements of what data and how you process that, and what accesses that you give, and things that needs to be enabled and reviewed. And I think every company is trying to build that policy today. What we are seeing is two stages of that. One is that us as a provider, uh, and as a software developer, few things are massively changing. We were building software initially for humans. Now we are building software for AI agents along with humans. So
Hmm.
the software needs to be able to securely give it enough permission, but not too much permission that you can go and delete everything as such. Uh, and you need to build that architecture into your software platforms with MCPs and other things. And almost, and one of the simplest use cases, as an example, is we, with a new platform, can configure. Give a configuration to our customers, that they can actually use that configuration with Copilot to then do which is within their own subscription, to then
Hmm.
have the LLM access the platform and get them the answers that they need, including custom reports generations, right? So that's a very simple way of actually utilizing the interface, and building the system in the way that it's already in a layer of security that they trust. The other
Yeah.
part is when we are looking at what the AI pricing and the API pricing is going on with the token utilizations. You're almost going to the state where open source is going to become a huge element for privacy, and Hugging Face is a huge element of in the open source, really powerful platforms that you can host. And with the computing that's been launched by Nvidia and others, which is, you can have this $5,000 PC, which can run 70 billion parameter AI models
Hmm.
locally, means that we could actually provide and do that execution without exposing the data outside for the customers, and do that in a much more controlled way. So there is and there is going to be more discussions on you know what part of the system is using what models, what data access it has, but it also will come down to the value aspect, right? So it's a balancing out between, you don't want to overkill things with security, as as very easily can happen. You want to leverage the latest models and innovations that are coming through, but also align that in to fit into the business practices that will help you drive a lot more productivity
Yeah.
going forward.
So, what kind of value are you
Yeah.
delivering for customers now?
So there's a few things that we're seeing right now. One is, and this is been something that we've seen as a problem statement across. Uh, Supplier onboarding is one of the biggest bottlenecks when it comes to supplier collaborations to happen with customers. And a lot of suppliers will have different portals that they would have to log in into to be able to then update it for different customers. And knowing this problem statement which we have exist, and we've seen the best in class solve, get a max of 50% of supplier onboarding happening, right?
Hmm.
In there. So one of the use cases that we built out, and we've been testing out with our clients, is with the AI elements and the models that are already in play, and with either you're using open source or a more secure model, uh, we can detect incoming emails with the information from the supplier on the changes that they suggest. They can't make the state, they need to change the quantity or the price on the email or as an attachment in the email. It could be either.
Yeah.
So it's again unstructured data. That unstructured data coming in today, somebody on the customer side would actually have to take that in and put that in, or get the supplier to actually use a portal and put that in. But with AI agents now, and with the new architecture we have, the system able to detect that and extract that specific information from that unstructured data, go and update the right fields in the portal with the traceability that it came from this email on the state from this user. What that suddenly does is the customer wants all the data from all the suppliers in one place, right? So that's their truth. But for the supplier, they're not changing anything in how they normally work today. They're just continuing doing exactly that. Yet there, so your supply onboarding suddenly becomes much less of an issue anymore.
Mhm.
Even doing supplier follow-ups, right, on what status of things are, right? So it's small things like that which we know take a lot more human time to happen right now. um, and not just building, there is a place for the chat enablement which we already have with MCP architectures. You can integrate your data, get, give me what's my worst performing thing. Yeah, you may not have all dashboards configured, and you don't need to sometimes have it as well. What is that data, what's the worst performing supplier that we have, where am I at risk, and then what actions do I need to take. These are some of the intelligence that agents is starting to build on, to be able to almost pre-prompt the customer and nudge them through different aspects coming through. And that's for us becoming like, how do we integrate into existing workflows for customers to add more productivity so that they can actually drive decisions from it. uh, they do not require huge teams to do that, because they
Mhm.
struggle with finding the skilled people to bring on. So they would rather retain the people that they have and have a system which they, only a few people can manage for a much larger business.
Yeah. I mean, where does the thread go with this? Like you're looking 3 to 5 years out into the future. You, I can see what you mean, that this could transform manufacturing and a lot of people could get left behind if you're looking at it pessimistically. But,
Yeah,
what's the rosy future
I mean
look like?
uh, the value prop on, we've always seen in with digitization in manufacturing is, if you are digitized, you lower your cost, you increase your quality, you have better control and visibility, which makes you more competitive, right? You have to be competitive to stay in the existing markets with all the disruptions and opportunities coming through. um, and with the skill shortages coming through, manufacturing has also always been a place. It's not necessarily, people coming out of university, unless they've been in apprenticeships and things and they've been exposed to manufacturing. Manufacturing is not necessarily the first place people think about, like a cool place to work or a jobs, right? This is where the opportunity, we see that is this the manufacturing can grow to become a lot more autonomous for the existing systems and processes to drive that productivity elements within. So again, we start to go into an era of small teams delivering huge values, right? You do not have to be, and this is, in the software world, this is already proving that companies who are 50 people teams building 100 billion in 100 million in booked revenues, right?
Yeah.
There are manufacturing companies who've been operating for much larger time than that, and this is company that's gone from that, from one, month one to month eight. The companies have existed for so long would never touch that amount of revenue today, right? And have so much overhead to be able to get anywhere near that. That's the key disruption, and we've seen that with, with the industrial first evolution, second evolution, as these different technologies came into play. There were a lot of people, uh, and even before CAD came in, people used to hand draw stuff. It's right. And now today, that is not something that you would even expect any
Any
manufacturer
business.
to be able to
Yeah.
do. But that was the truth, and not so long ago. I mean, it was, probably 10, 15 years ago. This is the case. So, and the rate of change of AI and the adoption and formalization of AI in the personal landscape to people mean that people are a lot more aware of what is possible versus and what it can already do for them versus what they were previously, which means that they are more open to that if it makes it easier for them to deliver the big value.
Nishant, we're coming to the end. So that's been a very instructive 25 minutes so far, 24 minutes. Um, just obviously like to ask my guests to leave the listeners with a final actionable insight. So, what do you think manufacturers should be doing now if they don't want to get left behind with all of
I think
this?
the first thing is they should be talking to you and me, so that
You
we
would
can
say
help
that.
them. Exactly. But I think most importantly is you need to find partners to work with. Don't try to solve this on your own. Um, the And work with your internal teams in terms of where the gaps in the processes are today, to understand what data you have, what systems you have, and what is your strategy. Like, if you can identify what the bigger problem you could solve with AI today that will add a massive value, that is, you know just doing that one thing will had a genuine impact on the business. No business has to be fully autonomous and AI upgraded. They need to be doing those small things that will have that 20% thing that will have that 80% impact for them. The technology is already here. The technology can do way more than they can even think as possible. The technology can outpace and do more consistently better performance in a new industry than any graduate or any a junior person coming into play. um, but that needs to be taken not as a fear but really an opportunity. That means that you can hire people and get them trained up with these agents, which actually you can feed in a lot of domain knowledge and rules with. And that's the opportunity. And if you leverage this opportunity, you can differentiate yourselves today. Over the next 3 to 5 years, it will become a must have, at which point, if you've not already experimented with these things, it's going to be very hard to compete.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Nishant, we'll put all the details of how folks can get in touch with you in the show notes. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you again, and till next time.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
I think Nishant made a compelling case that agentic AI isn't a future thing, it's a now thing. My takeaway: find one high impact problem, find the right partner, and start experimenting. Because in a few years, this won't be optional. Thanks for listening to Made to Grow. I've put all the links to get in touch with Nishant in the show notes. Till next time.